Greetings to one and all. I am Anand Kumar and I am going to be your host and the moderator for today's webinar. On behalf of my team AP Legal Chambers and on my personal behalf, I welcome you all to this 20th and special webinar of the series titled Is Litigation and Judiciary a Male Bastion? The Odds Against the Women by our special speaker, Ms. Aishwarya Bhati, Additional Solicitor General of India. I welcome all our participants, and before going into the webinar, I would like to make a few things clear. Kindly mute the audios from your end and if possible, disable the videos too. Once the presentation of our special speaker gets over, the APLC is APLC and the question answer session would follow. If you have any questions to ask our special speaker, kindly leave them in the chat box, and if time permits, all your questions will be answered by her. A short info about the organizers for the event today. We are Team AP Legal Chambers, a new age law firm in Delhi NCR with a branch office in Chennai. Things started to fall in place in 2017, and we had resolved to provide legal solutions to our clients to the best of our abilities. AP Legal Chambers specializes in domestic and international taxation, criminal law, constitutional law, IPR, energy laws, commercial advisory, and corporate compliance. We started organizing these webinars out of our passion for law, and due to the tremendous response from the participants, we are organizing these on every Thursdays and Sundays. As always, once the presentation of our special speaker gets over, we shall be having the segment called APLC's APLC, Ask the Popular Learned Counsel. We have prepared a few questions from our end and we will be asking them to our special speaker. I am sure this will be informative as well as interesting. Coming to today's topic, we celebrated our Independence Day yesterday, and over the last 7 decades, we have seen women competing head and shoulders with men and even sometimes excelling, and they have reached farther and greater heights than men in many fields, including medicine, engineering, arts, literature, defense services, business and industry, academics, journalism, administration, and law. We are one of the few countries where women are worshipped, women gods are worshipped, and they are celebrated. Gone are those days of the sayings called, behind an every successful man there is a woman. Now, the successful women are besides the men, and sometimes they are ahead of the men. We have seen in the independent India women prime minister, women president, and chief ministers, women chief ministers in respective in so many states, and we have also seen women excelling in sports and games as well. We have taken them as role models, and we have also seen the growth of women in each and every sphere of power and politics as well. In fact, one of the striking points which comes to our mind when we talk about women is that they are in no way less compared to men in the line of academics and law. But a question which lingers in our mind is litigation and judiciary a male bastion? And we are here to find out what are the odds against the women and how these odds could be overcome. And here we have in our midst Advocate Aishwarya Bhati, Additional Solicitor General of India, to discuss about this particular topic. And I am extremely eager to know what is in store. I take immense pleasure in introducing our special speaker for today's program. Ms. Aishwarya Bhati is the current Additional Solicitor General of India. She has a total professional standing of 22 years at bar, and she has been appointed as the Additional Solicitor General of India on the 30th June 2020. She is also designated as the Senior Advocate by the Supreme Court of India in March 2019. As we all know, Ms. Bhatiji was the advocate on record of the Supreme Court of India for 13 years prior to designation as the senior advocate. She was former Additional Advocate General for the state of Uttar Pradesh in Supreme Court from 2017 to 2020. She was the counsel for the High Court of Delhi in the Honorable Supreme Court. She had been the panel lawyer of the Supreme Court Legal Services Commission, SC, LSC, and Supreme Court Middle Income Group Legal Aid Society, MIG, and also she was the amicus curiae. She was elected twice as the secretary of the prestigious Supreme Court Bar Association, SCBA, in December 2013 and again in December 2014 with a record margin. She participates regularly in television debates and deliberations and national conferences on innumerable legal issues of national importance relating to administration of justice and women's rights. She was adjudged as the best student advocate of the country in the All India Moot Court competition organized by the Campus Law Center, Delhi, Delhi University in 1998. She was the best NCC cadet from Rajasthan and commanded the Rajasthan NCC contingent in the Republic Day Camp 1994, and she was the right marker of the marching contingent on Rajpath and was also awarded the Cherry Blossom Trophy for the best turned out cadet. She was selected for the coveted Indo-Canada Youth Exchange Program 1995 and represented India for the same in Canada. A solo glider pilot, an exemplary shooter, and a horse rider. Our special speaker has also participated in many adventurous activities in NCC. She was adjudged as the best student parliamentarian of the National Youth Parliament in 1990-91. And our special speaker had the privilege of being chosen as the head girl and best student of school in 1992. Ms. Bhatiji has always participated in a variety of extracurricular activities, including academic, sports, cultural, and has also represented schools and college, her school and college at state, regional, national, and international levels. We are very grateful to have you on board, ma'am. And on behalf of our team AP Legal Chambers, and on my personal behalf, and on behalf of all our participants today, I wholeheartedly welcome you for this presentation. When I approached her, she immediately accepted my invitation without even having a second thought and readily agreed on the topic, and she also gave her valuable inputs as to how to proceed with this particular topic. I wholeheartedly welcome our special speaker on board and hand over the session to you. And over to you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, so it is indeed a great privilege and honor to be here, to be with you all here this afternoon. When Anandji offered to me and requested me to speak on this topic, and he told me that his chamber was doing this continuing legal education, where many practicing lawyers, students of law who are studying law, students of law who are practicing law, uh, uh, chartered accountants, and other professionals from other walks of life, but primarily students of law, uh, were part of this usual webinar that he does. It's a periodic webinar that the chamber is doing. And I immediately accepted that. And the topic is also quite interesting for any woman lawyer to discuss with her fellow colleagues on the issues. First to consider what is the kind of representation that is there in our judiciary, in our litigation system, in our justice delivery system, and also to try and understand why the situation is the way it is in a particular manner. So here is my humble effort. Let me start with some statistics that I found were very, very interesting. So the participation, let's first look at judiciary. What has been the participation of women in the judiciary? We all know that the Supreme Court has only had 6 women judges so far who are retired, and 2 are on the bench currently. So 6 plus 2, 8 ever in the last 74 years of our existence as a democratic republic country. That's the data of Supreme Court. Interestingly, Supreme Court has had a total of over 250 judges so far, but out of that, 8 only have been women so far. Now, let me give you the profile of the first woman who was a judge in the Supreme Court of India, because that's the apex of our judiciary. Honorable Justice Fatima Bibi was the first woman to adorn the bench as a judge in the Supreme Court of India. She was appointed in the Supreme Court in 1989. I mean, just speaks volumes of the time itself, that 1989 was the first time that we got a woman judge in the apex court of the country, and she retired in 1992. It is also interesting to note that Justice Fatima Bibi, who came from Kerala, she was enrolled as a lawyer in 1950, but she was appointed as a munsif judge, and then she was promoted through the lower judiciary. She became a judge in the High Court in 1984, but she retired. She retired even before she was elevated to Supreme Court, and in fact, after almost 6 months of her retirement from the High Court, was she elevated as a judge in the Supreme Court of India, which the tenure was lesser than 2 years, the entire tenure in the Supreme Court, and that was the profile of the first, the timing of the first woman judge that we ever had in our Supreme Court. Then, of course, we have had Justice Sujata V. Manohar, Justice Ruma Pal, Justice Gyansudha Mishra, Justice Ranjana Prakash Desai, and recently Justice R. Bhanumathi, all of whom have adorned the benches of the Supreme Court and then retired. And currently we have Justice Indira Banerjee and Justice Indu Malhotra on the bench. Now, Justice Indu Malhotra has been a trailblazer in another way. So for statistical reasons, we also need to see that she was the first woman to ever be designated as a senior advocate from the bar by the Supreme Court of India. And she is also the first woman to be elevated from the bar directly to the bench on Supreme Court. So that is an interesting statistic when it comes to Justice Indu Malhotra. But equally interesting statistic is of the first woman lawyer that India ever had. And that first woman lawyer was Cornelia Soraji. She was actually the British time. She was a first-class degree graduate from Bombay University. She was sent to Oxford University by British. She was a trailblazer of her times when actually she wanted to sit in the civil law exams, but she was not able to graduate because apparently women were not given degrees until 1920. So after a long struggle with the authorities, she actually was able to become a advocate in a time that women did not have right to property, used to live in parda. Their religious and cultural beliefs used to govern the lives and livelihood, all aspects of life. Today also, one aspect of the life of women is still governed by the religious laws, personal laws, which is matrimony. But thankfully, all of the other civil and criminal laws are now gender neutral and religion neutral laws. Well, that is the story of the first lawyer, the first woman to ever become a judge in the High Court was Justice Chandy. The first woman to ever become a Chief Justice in any High Court was Justice Leela Seth of the Delhi High Court, who became a judge in Delhi High Court and a Chief Justice in Himachal High Court. So statistically, across India's 24 high courts, less than 10% or about 10% are women judges. If we talk about the district levels and the state levels, in the lower judiciary, at the district levels and the lower judiciary levels, the percentage of women in lower judiciary is 26 or 27%. That's what statistics shows. It is said that of the women who practice in the bar, in any court in the country, there are some variations for some of the states. Interestingly, those are states which are smaller states and matriarchal states. So Meghalaya, Goa, Sikkim, that has a very interesting and better ratio of women in the judiciary and also in the bar. But apart from that, uh, generally, statistically, there's only, the estimation is that only 10% of the bar consists of women lawyers across different courts in the country. Now, while all this statistics we were able to find, me and my colleagues were able to find, I was also curious to know if there is a statistical assessment done of how many women come to the courts as litigants, how many women come to court for seeking redressal of their rights, seeking vindication of their rights, because they have been on the receiving end of law, um, as victims of crimes, as victims of domestic abuse, sexual abuse, matrimonial abuse. I couldn't find any statistical figure, but out of my own experience, I can tell you this data is huge. This data is actually commensurate with the population of women in the country. So it is roughly 50%. In fact, it could be even more. Is my doubt, because the world outside is just like National Geographic, and so when you see a lion praying or getting ready for a hunt, then he always identifies in amongst the susceptible animals that he's looking at. He always identifies that who is vulnerable, who is susceptible, and the focus is on weaker, or seemingly infirm, vulnerable, uh, either smaller animals, women, or children. It's the same way in the society also. If you see as victims of crime, as women on the receiving end of their rights having been denied to them, that percentage is extremely astronomical. So is it fair then? Is it fair to have such low, abysmally low, in fact, such abysmally low number of women in the judiciary as judges on the bench and in the bar, when there are so many women who are coming in for seeking redressal of their rights in the justice delivery system? Now let's try and assess some of the reasons that are there. I as a young student of law, I read the biography of Justice Leela Seth. Autobiography. It was an autobiography that she had written, and some of the instances that she speaks about her journey as a woman judge, uh, it actually comes down to such small things as not even she says that when they were initially when she started practicing, there were hardly any women lawyers there, and you have to be in the courtroom from morning to evening. There were no toilets which were available for women lawyers. There were no washrooms that were available. Just such a basic fundamental thing, but it is a basic human need and a necessity. If you are going to be in a workplace for long periods of time, of course you need to have access to washroom. And she said, well, one washroom was also identified, which could be jointly used by women in the registry and women, couple of a handful of women lawyers who were there, but it used to be under lock and key, and the key of it used to remain with the registrar. So her autobiography is something that I will recommend to everyone to see. What a beautiful journey it has been from today. What we see, the person, I should also, when I talked about statistics, I should also speak about the statistics of women and young girls as students of law who are pursuing legal studies to take up law as a profession, to take up law as a vocation, as a livelihood. So that percentage, if you see, is quite high. There is a new and renewed, I would say, not really new, but renewed determination of women trying to make their mark in litigation and legal profession. in the justice dispensation system. I mean, if you see, I can tell you from my state, in the last few years, I think about 5, 6 years, the trend of the judicial appointments at the lowest level of the judiciary is that about 70% candidates who are selected in the judiciary are women. So that trend is now changing very interestingly. We see more women coming in the for the first time, Supreme Court had 3 women judges sitting together on the bench. Of course, Justice Bhanumathi retired last month. We have Justice Banerjee and Justice Malhotra, but some interesting statistics being made there. One more interesting statistic that I have been part of, that also I should share with you. I was designated as a senior advocate by the Supreme Court last March. And when I got designated, that is when I paid attention to that statistic, that in the last 74 years, Supreme Court had only designated 12 women lawyers to be senior advocate from the bar. So that also figure tells you that, such low numbers. Now, when I have become the Additional Solicitor General of India, I realized that there have been only 4 women ever, including me, who have been Additional Solicitor Generals of India, as law officers in the Supreme Court of India. So the figures are very, very interesting. But now let's come to the reality. How is it? What are some of the reasons? So I started with the autobiography of Justice Leela Seth to give you an example of resources. I will give you one more example of women having to make a decision between taking care of their children, becoming mothers, or pursuing their professions. That is also a very interesting crossroad that comes for a professional. I have seen this happening. I was myself, when I got married when I was a law student, and I was a mother of twins when I was a young lawyer. So it was very, very, very difficult to balance out, because nobody wants this choice that you can either be a mother and take care of your children, or you can be a professional. Why can't you have both? Why is it that this is a decision that is a crossroad that no man ever has to face? Why it is only the woman's responsibility to be able to make that choice, and you can't expect any mother to be to give up motherhood at the expense of profession. That does not happen. So how do you reconcile? In Supreme Court, and like in all other courts, I can tell you for Supreme Court, because I've been practicing there and I have first-hand knowledge of the Supreme Court of India. Many of my children were, I was a young lawyer, I didn't have much work, so I used to go intermittently in court, and that's a different story. But later I saw that many of my friends who were regular practitioners, they used to bring their young children to the courts with them. The children, needed to have company and feed from mothers from time to time when they are young. So what happens is, then you find a way that, you bring the children in the car keeps on running in the parking, the children are in the car. If you can afford a maid, the maid comes there, is in the car with the children, while the lady lawyer goes up, attends to her court, finishes her matter. If in between her matters she comes down, attends to her child, and then goes up again. It was only in 2015 that the creche was opened, 2014-15, in the tenure of Justice Dattu, when he was the Chief Justice of India, that we had a creche in the Supreme Court of India for the first time. I remember it because I was also the secretary of the bar. I can't take credit for it, but we were a part of that group of women lawyers who felt that this is a basic necessity. If you have to have women who have to be working, it cannot be that you give them you have to force a decision on them to choose between either their profession or having children. So initially that creche was started in the chamber block, and thereafter now there is a very beautiful and a very nice expanse of creche that is in Supreme Court, which women lawyers, women registrars, or any other women who are working in court can use, and that has set women lawyers free so much. So it is these, it's not really big things, let me tell you. No, there is no disadvantage to women lawyers in the litigation system. At least I have not had that experience. The disadvantage is there because it is a male bastion, because there is so much more that you need to juggle as a woman, and because this is a profession which is very difficult. I mean, this is a profession in which you have to uh, you're like building a house in which you can only put one brick every day, and you have to put one brick every day. If you don't do that, then it's not made. You can't rest on your laurels. It's not like you have a secure job, or a monthly salary income. No, it's every case you do, every argument you make, every appearance is what counts. In fact, to be fair, I must say that litigation is a very experience biased profession. Uh, there is no space for young lawyers in the system. Young lawyers take a long time to really establish in the profession, and it is not about you or me or A or B somebody else. It is about this profession. uh, just to give you an example, that if somebody chooses to maybe get into a glamour industry, modeling, show business, etc., fashion industry. Somebody wants to be, a designer, or somebody wants to be in the Bollywood, Hollywood, or somebody wants to be an IAS, IPS, or sports person. So for sports persons and the fashion industry, glamour industry, etc., the professions actually start when a person is as young as 15, 16 years of age. And you are at your peak when you are in your 20s, in your mid 20s, in fact early 20s and mid 20s, you are at your peak. But the profession starts to decline as you cross 30, and you actually need to be a Sachin Tendulkar or a Amitabh Bachchan to really survive in the industry, for or mold the industry in a manner to accept an older sports person or an older person. Similarly, if you were to take up a job, I mean, IAS, IPS, or any other service sector, service industry, you get in. You have a period. There's a minimum age in which, and a maximum age in which you can get in. But lawyer is a profession. At the entry level, you just need a enrollment degree of law and an enrollment with the bar council of the state that you want to practice, and you get enrolled. There's no barrier at the entry level. But this is a profession which takes very long time to mature. In fact, if you see the biggest names of the litigation profession in the country, you will see, and across the world also, you will realize that the most successful lawyers are in the age group of 60 to 90 years of age. Of course, there are some tall doyens of the bar like Mr. Ram Jethmalani, Mr. Fali Nariman, who are on the other side of 90 also, and still very successful lawyers. But essentially, it is the age group of 60 to 90 years, and 60 is a retirement age for most other service sector, and where you start to shine in this profession. So to understand it, this is not like, legal profession is not like making Maggie, which will be ready in, doesn't happen in 2 minutes. I've not seen that, but at least 3, 4, 5 minutes it happens. You can cook Maggie in 5 minutes. It is not like dal chawal that you can give one whistle and it's done. You can't. It's not like a quick, quick fix food that you are making for yourself. It is like preparing chappan bhog. It takes a very long time to cook. Even before cooking, it takes a long time for you to assimilate the ingredients, preparations, marinations, cutting, cooking, and then is the time that legal profession starts to mature. So it is very difficult for young lawyers per se. But if you're a young lawyer, and if you're a woman at that, then you had it. Because in addition to the difficulties of the profession, you have the difficulties of the society, and the beliefs of the society, the perceptions of the society. If you see today, women have conquered all male bastions. There isn't any male bastion that really remains which used to be a male bastion and has not been conquered, or where women are not there, their presence have been felt very strongly, whether it was IPS officer, whether it was judiciary, whether it was climbing the Mount Everest, whether it is going in space. And I'm not just talking about Kalpana Chawla. We have seen that in our own Mars mission, it was a team of women scientists who were actually propelling the glorious journey of our Mars mission. So Mangalyaan, that's you must see that movie, and it's based on the real life events, and it may make you realize what an important role women scientists have played. But despite being individual cases of excellence, have women really achieved all that they were capable of achieving? Now let's look at it from another perspective. I believe that wherever women have stood out and done well, they are still individual cases of excellence. As as a class, women have not been able to neither achieve nor contribute in equal measures. It is not about an achievement for women itself. You're talking about one half of the population of our family, one half of the constituents of our society, of our nation, of humanity. If one half of the population cannot realize its full potential, I mean, imagine if in your house, the women in your house, whether it's your grandmother, it's our mothers, our sisters, our daughters, our sister-in-laws, our daughter-in-laws, if women in our family were not able to realize their potential and contribute in whatever manner they are contributing today, I'm not saying that everyone wants to go out and become a Supreme Court lawyer, but the contribution of women in our house is immense. And if women are not able to, just imagine what would our families be without the contribution of the amazing women who are the strongest pillars of the family. It would be unthinkable to think of a family without the women having realized their full potential, because when they realize their full potential, they contribute to the family. They contribute to the physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, everything, and financially to the family. Now, if women are not able to, that's the situation, and the society and nation just expand what we see in the family. It's the same unit of family. When you expand it, you realize that if in society and in nation and in humanity, if women are not able to realize their potential to the extent that they are capable of, and again, I will highlight that not everybody wants to be PT Usha or Kiran Bedi or Kalpana Chawla. Everyone has, and like it's the same way for men. I mean, not every man would want to be in particular areas. We all have our individualities and we all have our potentials that we need to realize. Important thing is we need to start respecting, as families, as societies, we need to start respecting those potentials and allowing women. Actually, if you ask the women who are achievers today in different fields of life, you will realize that each one of them will, at least majority of them will say that because they had strong support of their families, because their families gave them wings, because their families were the winds beneath their wings, that they were able to take the flight, that they managed to have some achievement in, or some exemplary position in whatever fields they have chosen. So the starting point is family. Laws are there, the systems are in place. Our constitution started with a journey which was in any case a very sterling journey for women and gender justice and gender equality. In the Western world, women did not even have, even in the most developed democracies which are 300 years old, even in those democracies, women did not have the right of vote. In fact, the colored people got the right of franchise before women did. It is only 100 years or 102 years now. The centenary celebrations, were celebrated, I think, 2 years back. So it's been 102 years that women have had adult franchise anywhere in the world, which is the most developed democracies. So Indian constitution 74 years back did not grapple with these problems that were there everywhere else also. I mean, segregation was still very, very prevalent. And while the hallowed principles of liberty, justice, equality were celebrated, but in action, there was a lot of difference. So the Indian Constitution made sure that women have equal access to justice, they have equal rights in true sense, and actually went a step further to say that women are entitled to affirmative action, affirmative equality, which is a step ahead than the others, because women had been subject to centuries and centuries of inequality, because our constitution believes in the concept of equal treatment of equals, and it was believed that women needed that affirmative action. Women, children, socially backward classes, that affirmative action is recognized and affirmed in the constitution very, very strongly. But in the practice, we saw that, the laws are all brilliant, constitutional principles are brilliant. We have seen Supreme Court judgments that have been extremely brilliant. Whenever the entire march of Supreme Court judgments, if we see, some of the initial judgments with regard to gender justice were grappling with cases where, in one case, a rule in the civil services was challenged, which required the women employees to take permission before getting married. Or the Air India case, where women, their employment was terminated just because she became a mother. So these were the earlier cases that the Supreme Court grappled with. Property laws, Tridhan, absolute right, etc. Those were also there. But look at the kind of cases. I mean, you need a permission of an employer to get married, and you get terminated from your service because you become a mother. Those are the kind of cases that the Supreme Court grappled with. And then the journey has been a very forward-looking march, that the Supreme Court has interpreted our constitutional provisions to affirm gender justice in a very strong manner, whether it was negating the completely arbitrary and illegal personal law practices of triple talaq, or whether it was the recent case of granting women officers of the Indian Army and Indian Navy equal rights and equal opportunities of permanent commission and command positions. These are two judgments that I actually had the occasion to be part of, to represent some of these really brave and courageous women officers. So the journey has been a sterling journey. It has been a glorious journey. But somewhere the representation in the judiciary, in the justice delivery system, has been very, very slow. The trend is changing. It is certainly changing. It is surely changing. But it is changing still quite slowly. Why we need this to change? Like I mentioned, the change has to happen because the victims of law, of crimes, the people who are at the other end of justice delivery mechanism are women. I mean, that is exceedingly women. So you can't have systems which are not, we still say manned by women. I mean, they need to be manned by women. We have to have gender neutral parlance and gender neutral, but then the change has to start from home. We have to, we can't be putting women into this grind of, that if she's going out to work, it's fashionable, she's trying to do this because it's fashionable, or she's trying to be, extra something because she's trying to make a mark of her own, or she's trying to stand on her own. We need to have the change coming right from homes, and it is not a battle between men and women. No one should ever understand these these women empowerment and gender justice issues to be a battle between man and women. All of us will agree at our personal level that we would have seen several amazingly sensitive men who have been very, very strong and sensitive on women's issues, and equally enough number of women who, when they came in a position of power, authority, or responsibility, whether in family spaces or workspaces or professional spaces, they became part of the patriarchy rather than supporting the women. And because they realized what younger women had gone through, their journeys could not have been different. They live in the same society. Also, we must understand that this is not something that is India specific. Gender issues are they have an uncanny similarity across boundaries, across geographies, across developing status of the nations. And the more things change, the more they remain the same, at least when it comes to gender issues. United Nations also recognizes offenses against women and cruelty and sexual offenses these against women to be a result of the unequal power relationship between men and women in the society for centuries. We saw that that Me Too movement was not something that started in India. It is something that started in the Western world. And while Anandji was rightly pointing out that we are a country that has had women prime ministers, women prime minister, women president, but the US has not been able to have that, and it's supposed to be one of the most, it claims to be one of the most developed and evolved democracies. So, despite that, uh, it's important to understand this, that world over the situation is on similar strengths. In fact, Indian women have made huge strides, whether in India or abroad. The nomination of the running mate of Joe Biden, Kamala, is one such thing that we have been celebrating for the last 3-4 days now. Things are changing slowly, surely, but things have to change from home. That is why and it's like I said, I mean, it's not like women lawyers get any special, any special benefit, or they can get. No, if you are in the profession, you have to rise up to the same status. You will get enough helping hands. There'll be amazing people who will be there to help you out if you are putting in your hard work with honesty and sincerity. All that is required from you is that just keep on it, because the journey of women, in especially in these male bastions, are not journeys of individual women. These are journeys, it's like a relay race. We where the baton is passed on from the previous generation to the next generation. And I'm not just, it's just every 10 years there's women ahead of us in this profession who have done brilliantly, because of whom we have been able to breathe easy. And I'm sure there will be women lawyers who are yet to march on this path, who will feel more confident and more secure because of all the women who have walked in this path ahead of them. But it is, and no woman expects any lowering of standard. I can tell you, I mean, I represented some of these very brave women in the case of the Indian Army, Indian Navy, and Indian Air Force. I was fortunate to appear in all the three cases for the officers. And it's not lower standards that they are looking at, or lower parameters. The point is, why do women still need to bother about basic security? Why do nations and societies not have zero tolerance on crimes against women, sexual offenses against women? I mean, we still see that women are grappling still with the basic requirement of security in public spaces. The data of sexual offenses is so abysmal that we see that a large number of sexual offenses against women are happening in the four walls of homes, of workplaces, by people who are in a position of authority, confidence, relationship with women. So that is also a very important eye opener and a reminder that we need to understand that empowerment of women is not going to happen just by giving them reservations. We saw that in panchayat level there were reservations that were there at the panchayat level, um, as per the constitutional mandate, in terms of 74th and yes, I think 73rd and 74th constitutional amendment. We saw that panchayat level grassroots politics was completely rejuvenized, and women were given 33% reservation there. But I can tell you, in my state, there was a very interesting new term that we heard of. So, if, you would notice that in some panchayats where the woman is the sarpanch, when the panchayat meeting is held, she comes in a ghungat and she sits on the floor when the panchayat is being conducted. But there is a man who comes and sits on the seat of the sarpanch. And if you were to ask who is this person, it's interesting. You get to know that that is somebody who's known as sarpanchpati. So that was a new term that was coined, that sarpanch, who is actually elected, is unaware, illiterate, uneducated. She does not even know her rights, her duties, responsibilities. And she's just sitting on the floor in a ghungat, and it's the sarpanchpati who's sitting on that chair and running the show. So we can't have, just laws, just reservations are not going to solve the problem. It's not a magic wand that we can just wave it and the problems will be solved. The mission and the revolution actually has to begin from us, from our homes, from our sons and our daughters. That is when the world is actually going to change. So these are some of my thoughts on representation of women, and what are the odds that women face, which were essentially out of my experiences and my learnings from experiences of women that I have seen and read about. Now let's have some interactions so we can share, have a two-way street of exchange of thoughts and ideas. Thank you, Anandji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. Yeah, it was refreshing and inspiring as well. One more thing which I would like to tell all our participants is our special speaker, Ms. Aishwarya Bhati is the first woman from Rajasthan to be appointed as the Additional Solicitor General of India. So on behalf of our team and participants, we wholeheartedly congratulate you for taking up this post, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you. Now, ma'am, with your permission, shall we just move to the APLC segment, where we have prepared a few questions from our end. Yeah, thank you, ma'am. So the first question is, ma'am, is it fair to call women as weaker sex? So what is your take on that, ma'am?
This was a question that was asked once to late Sushma Swaraj in one of the meetings that I also had the privilege to attend, and she was an extremely strong, charismatic woman who, she weaved magic with words, if I can use that word. I mean, whoever had the occasion to hear her live, it was mesmerizing to hear her. So I'm going to borrow the answer that she gave to this question, when she was asked that women are called weaker section, and she said, "Let's look at nature. Whether it is the biggest of the animal, which is the elephant, you see who's the leader of that herd of animals? It is the female elephant. It's the she elephant who is the leader of that pack. If you look at a pride of lions, the pride of lions, who does the hunting, which is the most difficult part? Who does that hunting? It is the lionesses. You will never see the lions doing the hunt. They will go and savor the hunt after the hunt has been made by the lionesses. And come to the bottom of the pyramid in terms of size in nature. Look at the bees or the ants, and the status of the female ant or a female bee. You will realize that nature did not intend women to be weaker sex. If nature indeed intended women to be weaker sex, then the most important role of becoming a mother, of procreating, of bearing bearing a life and giving birth and nurturing that life. I mean, a human child is one of the most weakest, young ones, who needs to be nurtured, nourished and nurtured. And that whole onus is given to women by nature. So if that is the responsibility that nature bestows on women and female in the natural world also, you can't say women are weaker sex.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. And we just wanted to get the answer from you. So we wanted the participants also to know about what is your opinion about it. Now, quickly moving on to the next. In the meantime, participants can ask the questions in the chat box. It will be definitely answered by our special speaker. Now, moving on to the next question, ma'am. As you mentioned about this in your speech regarding the women lawyers at Supreme Court and other lower courts, so considering the breaks taken by the women due to marriage, matrimony, maternity, displacement due to the transfer of their spouse, etc., are the women not considered or taken seriously when it comes to higher courts or in the Honorable Supreme Court, ma'am?
That is certainly a problem, Anandji. I can tell you from my own experience. Nobody will tell you this, that they will discriminate against a woman just because she's getting married or she's having a child. But these were the reasons that were given in the affidavit of the army for denying command positions and permanent commission to women officers. They said women have these, matrimonial functions, maternity functions, etc., and they're not better placed because of this. Supreme Court threw out all of that. They said it's stereotypes. But in practice, no client will want to give a brief to a woman who is pregnant. And you can't hide pregnancy for too long. So, because no client wants a disruption in his case, you have to see it from the perspective of the client. I mean, now the statute prescribes of mandatory maternity leave, which is a very good amount of leave that is now available in the new laws. There is provision of child care leave. Now creches, which I mentioned, are so so fundamental. Creches are now as a mandate of statute to be provided in all workplaces where women are working. So these steps have been taken, but see, litigation still remains it's a self-employment. You are professionals. You are not in that kind of a regime that you can as a woman registry official, as a woman judge, you can get a leave. But as a woman lawyer, who do you go ask for maternity leave? You can't ask your clients, can you give me maternity leave? No, he will take his file and go away. But I will tell you one more thing. Yes, these disadvantages are definitely there because that mechanism is not there. But I will also tell you this. Ultimately, initially, your initial threshold is more difficult. When you are a younger woman lawyer, it is more difficult because you have to work extra hard. You have to take care of your children, take care of your family, finish. If you are, at least my generation, we did not have the luxury of, just going out as working women and not taking care of homes. That luxury we did not have. We had to finish our work at home, tend to children, do the work outside, come back, and then start tending again to home, children, everything. But the time is changing. There is this new generation of lawyers, your generation, Anandji. I have seen many of my younger colleagues who are now taking turns. So that if, I know younger colleagues who are 2 days, the father is at home, 2 days, mother is at home, and they're handling each other's cases or trying to find ways out of it. These are, men need to help out and work more at home. And I'll tell you, initial years are difficult, but once you prove yourself, more and more, I have now started hearing from more and more litigants that we want to, like I became additional Solicitor General. So many of my clients told me that I can't appear for private clients, my erstwhile clients. So they said, please recommend another woman lawyer, because we feel that women lawyers are more sincere for their briefs. They work extra hard. They are more dedicated to their work. So that impression is also changing. This is something that you even hear from judges now, that women lawyers are always very well prepared, because you have to be. You have to prove yourself there. You have to work maybe a little extra to prove yourself in a male bastion. So things are changing, surely and certainly. With your generation, I'm very hopeful. And the generation after you, you have grown up helping your mothers, so you will help your sisters and your wives also.
Thank you, ma'am. This baton has been passed from your generation to us, so it is also our duty to take it forward and hand it over to our next generation. So you have been leading us, and you have always inspired us to actually do few changes from our end also. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Now moving on to the next question. So, what do you think is the fundamental problem in the last 7 decades that only 12 women as senior advocates and only 4 women as additional Solicitor Generals of India, ma'am? Is there any fundamental problem which you see is the reason behind this, ma'am? Inequality.
See, we when we look at statistics, we also need to bear in mind that we only look at statistics at the highest level. The problem is that you can't have, for that matter, men and women both. You can't have people paratrooping at the top of the pyramid. You can't have women as senior advocates if they have not been in the system, grown up in the system, matured in the system. Senior advocates is a very it's a huge distinction. It's the full court of the Supreme Court or full court of the High Court if the designation is from High Court. That determines on a special knowledge of law. It's supposed to be, you're supposed to have matured as a professional, have had more wisdom as a professional. At least that's the impression. I'm not sure if it's true, but you're supposed to. Similarly, as additional Solicitor General, you are the topmost team of the Union of India, defending the important policies or important decisions, actions of the Union of India in the highest constitutional courts. So it can't be that without proper experience, proper training, without going through the grind. We need more women coming in from the grind at the level, get in from the grind, go through the whole grind, and then become. Otherwise, you will have that kind of sarpanch kind of situation, that you give reservation and you have new terms like sarpanch patis that come in. So you have to have more women in the intake. Only then the input has to have more women, then only output will have more women.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, generally, politics or joining politics is considered as a taboo by many, whereas litigation or legal profession in general is considered as a noble profession. But when we compare the representation of women side by side with the women in politics and in law, so we can safely assume that there are more representation of women at the politics and even at the higher level of politics compared to women at legal or law profession. So do you see any kind of visible difference in these two, ma'am?
See, politics is representation of people. So because the number game is there, of course it's still not adequate, but you see more women politicians at all levels, because it's every vote counts, and we have universal adult franchise, so women are voters, and gone are the times when the woman would vote what her husband would ask her to vote to, or her father or elder brother would ask. No, now a woman votes as per her own choice. Even if her vote differs from her husband, she will take that decision on her own. So things are changing, and because of that, the representation of women politicians is increasing, though it's still not at the level that it must be, but it is certainly. Similarly, women lawyers are also now coming more. Like I said, there are many cases, for example, sexual assault cases, sexual offenses. There is a preference for women judges. POXO offenses, Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act, which is the POXO Act of 2012. There is a mandate for POXO judges to be, preferably female judges. Juvenile Justice Act, the whole mechanism of those special courts. So there's several places, family courts, there's a preference to have. And like I mentioned, I know of Rajasthan judiciary for the last 6-7 years. There's no reservation, for women there, but women are coming in automatically because there's higher number of women students of law. So 60-70% in the lower judiciary is now women consistently for the last 6-7-8 years. In Rajasthan, in a state like Rajasthan, I mean, I am the first woman to be designated as a senior from Rajasthan. That tells you the statistic of Rajasthan. It has been a highly patriarchal, conservative, traditional society where women were not given the freedoms and the liberties that they were given in lesser patriarchal societies or matriarchal societies. But things are changing.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And once you were telling in the presentation that women have been given wings by their family. So, do you think it is generally believed that second generation women lawyers have been far more successful in their career, while the first generation women lawyers are they have to take the hard way around? So, what is your opinion, ma'am?
See, second generation of any professional will be slightly advantaged uh, because the initial threshold is better for them. In a profession like law, you have already a office that is up and running. You don't have to scrounge around for an office space. Libraries are very expensive to build and to have. Those libraries are available. uh, Files to argue, or client base, that is something that is available to second generation lawyers. So the threshold is better for second generation lawyers, both men and women. I don't think as a second generation female lawyer, the advantage is any different. I think the advantage is same for second generation lawyers, whether they are men or women. But ultimately, they have to prove their mettle. That initial threshold can only give you a slight advantage in the beginning. It's like, uh, you know, uh, others take a jump from a lower pedestal, and as a first generation lawyer, you have a slightly higher pedestal to take a leap from. But ultimately, how strong is your leap is going to determine how your flight is. That alone is going to be the determining factor, not your office space or your files or anything. But I'll tell you, empowered mothers, not necessarily women lawyers only, mothers who are empowered, mothers who are sensitive, who are, who have a sense of right and responsibility both, not just right orientation, responsibility orientation is also very important. Those mothers have sons and daughters both. They bring up such sons and daughters who are better contributors to families, who are better contributors to society. If um, like I was telling you, Anandji, that if you have helped your mother in the kitchen, you will not hesitate to help your wife or your sister in the kitchen. If you have never helped your mother has been taking care of everything at home, or if she has not been respected at home, you will never have that respect, because you feel, oh well, this is the dumb thing. You disrespect woman because that's the dumb thing. That's what you've seen in your. But if you are the son of a strong woman, a confident woman, not necessarily a lawyer, then it will automatically turn out to be better. That's what I feel.
Very well put, ma'am. It was really, really inspiring, and it is a definite takeaway for all the participants here. This message. Now, moving on to the next question, ma'am. Women have. What do you think, ma'am? Once you were discussing, you were telling about more representation of women at the lower courts, and when we gradually take it up further, the concentration of women gradually reduces. So why do you think is this a vast difference when it comes to moving in the higher courts, ma'am?
So, Anandji, higher courts, the practice um, takes more time. It is more difficult. Um, and I wouldn't say, in fact, actually, for men and women both, when you are at a lower court, there is proximity with home. You don't have to move out of your homes, your parents' homes and hometowns. You have familiarity with the surroundings, the culture, people around you. Also, the lower courts have original litigation. There's a lot of original litigation. So that allows you to have interface with clients. So it is the gestation period in a lower court which has original litigation is much lower for men and women lawyers both. In fact, I always recommend to people who want to start the practice of law, I tell them you must start from a court which has original litigation, more of original litigation of your interest, whatever is your interest. You start with your interest and then see where it goes and where it takes you, because litigation is also a journey in self-discovery. But as you go to higher courts, constitutional courts, and appellate courts, there are more appeals. They're coming from so there's more referral work. There's no direct clientele work. So therefore, it's secondary work, whereas the primary work is always easier, better, faster. So that is probably the difference in my view.
Yeah. Thank you very much, ma'am. Now we will be moving to the questions asked by our participants. There are quite a few questions that has been asked by them. So the first question is asked by Mr. Kamal. He wants to know what is your take on the recent judgment about the equal share of property for women in the Supreme Court.
Huge landmark. I think it's going to be a milestone in equal rights of women as co-partners in the property, in the ancestral property, because if you know the background, the 1956 law did give Hindu women the property rights which they did not enjoy before that. They were held to be entitled only to their Sridhar and nothing else. But recognizing their right as a co-partner came much later. In fact, in 2005 is that amendment that came in the act which allowed women a right as co-partner. But in the Pushpalata judgment, the ratio of the Supreme Court was that this will only apply prospectively, which means that where the co-partner or the karta whose property is in question, if he has passed away prior to the amendment, then the women do not have a right, because it would be assumed that the partition happens on his death. So that left out a lot of women. Now this judgment was doubted, and then that's how the reference to larger bench happened. And the larger bench has said in very emphatic and no uncertain terms that the 2005 amendment cannot restrict women prior to 2005, because every woman who has any right in ancestral property, then she's treated for all practical purposes equal as a male co-partner. She is a co-partner, period. And as a co-partner, she is entitled to all rights that otherwise the male co-partners alone used to enjoy. These are mindset battles, Anandji. These battles are important. Some people are, of course, getting a little skeptical about it. There are some, there are lurking doubts about this, that it's going to unsettle the position of law. Well, even if it be, so be it. These battles have to be fought very vehemently, because these are battles of mindset. These are battles against patriarchy, against stereotypes. And it was very interesting when Supreme Court pronounced this judgment. They said, there's an interesting old saying that a son is a son till he gets married, and a daughter is a daughter for life. So why not equal child, equal children, equal rights?
Yes, ma'am. Definitely. Yes, this is a definite refreshing change that the Supreme Court has given, and I am sure, at least as you mentioned, the states like some backward states also take up this matter seriously, and then the people also will definitely change due to this welcome move by the Supreme Court, ma'am. Now, moving quickly to the next question, it is asked by Mr. Ashmit Tyagi. He wants to know, what is feminism according to you, ma'am?
Feminism, according to me, is an equal realization of the potential of each person. It's not about giving anybody preference over anybody, but the ability of each person, irrespective of their gender, to realize their dreams to the best of their ability, their capacity, and their competence.
Excellently put, ma'am. Yeah. Thank you. Now, moving quickly to the next question, it is asked by Mr. Krishnan P. He is one of our regular participants. He wants to know, ma'am, in Bharat, we worship women as gods. there were strong women as queens and rulers. So where exactly we went wrong?
I think historians will be better equipped to answer this. Where did we go wrong? But you're right. We have a very rich cultural heritage of values, whether it is our religious texts, our the Vedic period. Women enjoyed equal freedom, equal opportunity, equal whatever she wanted to do. It was there was no restriction, and she was empowered. I have read a lot of literature which suggests that changes started to. Of course, there are many reasons. Invasion of Mughals is seen to be one period when women actually saw a lot of attack on women, and the Parda Pratha, actually the veil system, started from there. Uh, but it's and women coming out of home. Earlier the system was that. The work was equally divided. Women would work at home and men would work, outside of home. So the contribution of women at home was not devalued in any way or found, but over the years, it was like if somebody was a housewife, that used to be taken as a derogatory term. Somebody was just at home. There was no value put to the woman having children, nurturing children, taking care of home, everybody. That was just taken for granted. And unequal power relationships, patriarchal mindsets. There have been several contributing factors. The point is, we have to change now. We can't allow this to. We have to be intolerant about some things. And this is exactly the thing we have to be intolerant about crimes against women, about offenses against women, about demeaning women in any way, about not allowing them to realize their full potential. If if every family becomes intolerant about this, every society, every family, every nation, the whole humanity is going to see where it can go. If one half of the population gets to be seen as an asset rather than as a liability.
Yes, precisely, ma'am. So just like how charity begins at home, this change also should begin from home. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Now, quickly moving on to the next question. It is asked by Ms. Ayushi Verma. Ma'am, you can decide whether you would like to take this or not, because since this is not related to our particular topic of discussion today, she wants to know what is your opinion regarding the judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court regarding Advocate Prashant Bhushan's tweet.
Well, she's only asking my opinion, so
Yes.
I can certainly give my opinion. See, the Supreme Court has made a very interesting distinction between fair criticism and malicious and calculated criticism. In fact, Arushi, I will request you to read para 63 of that judgment. 63 and 64, I think it is. And if you see that, Supreme Court gives very interesting statistics that, his tweet suggested that the courts had been kept in a lockdown and the CJI was enjoying, a super bike, etc. And the last four chief justices are going to go down, are to as destroyers of democracy. Their role in that's what the two tweets suggested. Now, interestingly, the Supreme Court gives this data that in the last during 23rd March to the first week of August, Supreme Court heard 12,000 some cases, out of which, so 12,000 plus cases the Supreme Court has heard. Not even for a day it was shut down. It was working throughout. And 600 some, it's almost 680 something. That is the number of writ petitions under Article 32 which were heard by the Supreme Court. Many of those writ petitions were argued by Mr. Bhushan himself. And if an innocent person who doesn't know better is, because of his naiveness making that, statement, and a person who has been a lawyer for 30 years, who has argued many of those cases before the Supreme Court, making those kind of remarks. After all, there has to be a line that has to be drawn in fair criticism and criticism that is calculated, that is destructive, that is malicious, that has to be handed out an iron hand. Please see what is at stake here. See what is at stake, Anandji. I'll request you and your colleagues and Arushi to please consider this. You know, many of what is at stake? What is at stake is the faith of the common citizen on the edifice of judiciary, on the institution of justice delivery. And when that faith gets eroded, you know, Mr. Salve recently said in one of his interviews that Supreme Court has become the national dartboard. Everyone wants to throw darts on Supreme Court. Judges don't speak out in public, in media. They only speak through their judgments. But if the learned lawyers are going to make it a dartboard, the impression that goes in the mind of a common litigant is, oh, I can't trust the system. If you can't trust the system, do you know that the rule of law itself will crumble? Then people will not want to bring their disputes to the institutions, to the court of law. They will want to sort out their disputes on the roadside. Extrajudicial will become the order of the day, which today exists only as an aberration. Do we want extrajudicial way of dispensation of justice to become the order of the day? We have to protect our institutions. We have to strengthen our institutions. That's frankly my opinion as a student of law who practices in the Supreme Court.
Yeah. Thank you for your sharing your views on this, ma'am. Now moving on to the next question here. It is asked by Ms. Riya Kumar. She wants to know, can you please guide all the first generation law students, especially girls, as to how to go forth with academics, internships and extracurricular activities and also practice of law?
So academics, you just need a degree of law and an enrollment in the Bar Council of your state. If you are academically oriented, please by all means continue with a post-graduation, PhD if you like, some diplomas. In fact, now is a good time to brace up on academic skills. I understand that a lot of acclaimed universities abroad are also doing online certificate courses, diploma courses. And very interestingly, I found out that many of them are free because these universities are also struggling without the foreign students. Everyone is struggling. COVID has done, some great rechurning. It has been a huge manthan. It has, the whole world is on a tailspin. So many of these universities are offering courses which are free to attend. And if you need a certificate of that course, then only you need to pay for that. And that is also not much. So I think COVID time is a good time to, to brace up on some of the areas of law that you have been wanting to follow, to read up. I don't know, maybe white collar crimes, maybe enforcement directorate issues, whether environmental laws, gender justice, whatever is your area, please by all means equip yourself. And this is a better time. But one thing I think is most important for us to understand is that when we enroll in law, we actually enroll to be students of law for life. Only the change that happens is that as students of law who are only studying law, we also become students of law who are practicing law. Studying happens throughout the life. You are a student of law throughout your life. So you are actually studying to be a student throughout your life. But also understand that the courtrooms, the court corridors are like some of the best Ivy League colleges of the world. The amount of learnings that is here in the courtrooms is incredible. It depends on what you want. If you are ready to take each person as a teacher, then you will learn from fellow lawyers, colleagues, clerks, the jamadars of the court. There is immense learning. And as lawyers, we are also, almost like jack of all trades. And time is now going, I think, of silo thinking, specialized one silo, you specialize in that silo alone. It will increasingly be multidisciplinary. So for example, tax may be your core expertise or your core area of specialization or focus, but you will have to see the interface or interplay of tax, it at intersection with criminal justice system, at interface with the revenue laws, at interface with the other civil laws, etc. So multidisciplinary approach is something that must be enhanced. uh, there are internships that are available on virtual platforms. Lawyers are taking the virtual internships. Of course, physically, nobody's on physical offices are not really working so effectively. Even if they are on social distancing, etc. But virtual platforms are available at all levels. Please make use of that. Enhance your learning. And whether first generation or second generation, I already made that distinction that as a second generation, you have a higher threshold to take your flight from. But ultimately, what's the strength of your wings, and what's the strength of your will is what is going to determine how far you fly and how strong is your flight. So I think what has helped me, I'm also a first generation lawyer. My elder brother was the first lawyer in the family, and he sort of encouraged me to take up law. In fact, law was not my first choice. I actually wanted to be a pilot. You saw from my profile, I was a solo glider pilot, and I felt that was where I was a dreamer. So I thought that's where my dreams are. But unfortunately, man proposes, God disposes. I failed the pilot aptitude test that I had gone to give for Air Force, and it was very crushing for me. But my brother, who was already a young lawyer, elder brother, he then, he knew how I was. I mean, he's not just an elder brother. He's somebody who's my friend, philosopher, guide, my mentor. He persuaded me and told me to take up law and see if I like it, and I did. And if you ask me today, if I was to live my life all over again, law would be my first choice this time. It would not be my second choice. So just keep at it. This journey is beautiful. As a litigation lawyer, you just need to work with honesty, integrity, and dedication. That's all. And compassion. Compassion is also very important, because ultimately, it's not about how much money you make. And never run after money, because it's useless. You'll never catch it if you run after it. And it's not about how much money you make. It's about how much difference you make in people's lives. So compassion is something that is very important, along with the dedication and honesty. You keep at it, and doors open for you slowly, because like I remind everyone, this is chapan bhog. This is not instant Maggie. Slowly, but yes, surely.
Thank you, ma'am. Aviation industry's loss is the legal fraternity's gain. In fact, we are very, very, what is that? In a sense, we are happy that you are not able to clear that exam, and you have come here amongst us, and you are leading the advocates here and now additional Solicitor General, and it is the legal fraternity's gain. Thank you, ma'am. And the next question is also precisely similar to this. So, Mr. Kamal wants to know, ma'am, what's the measure difference you see when you used to glide at 10,000 feet high in the sky and inside the male-dominated legal fraternity? He wants to know your personal opinion, ma'am.
Well, firstly, the glider doesn't go so high. The gliders that we used to fly were without engines. They used to be pulled up on the altitude used to be by pull of a winch, so it was very interesting. These old, this is very old. I mean, I was a glider pilot in the years of 92, 93, 94. That is the year. So we didn't have motorized gliders in NCC then. But flying is liberating in a very different sense. I started with parasailing, and then paragliding, and then the glider pilots as an Air Force NCC cadet. It is exhilarating. It's liberating. It's, you're one with the environment, with nature. It's exhilarating in so many ways. But I never thought that what was the similarity with litigation. But now that you're saying, litigation is also very liberating and very exhilarating and very satisfying. I'll tell you why. lawyering is a lot about role play. We also become actors in a certain way. We have to step into the shoes of our clients. We're not mouthpieces, but we have to understand the pain. When clients come to us, they don't give us the brief and the fee for doing the brief. They leave a part of their pain with us. They feel their anguish, their hurt, and no one comes to lawyers in a state of happiness or jubilation or exhilaration. People come to lawyers uh, at the lowest ebbs of their life. In India, we don't have that luxury litigation that neighbors branch is coming in my house, so I'll sue. No, that kind of litigation happens only in the common law taught course books that you would have read, not in real courtrooms. Here, people come as a last resort to courtrooms. And then when, they leave a part of their pain with you, and you don't win all cases, you lose many cases. I mean, as somebody who's practiced in Supreme Court, the dismissal rate of Supreme Court on an admission day is over 75-80%. So even if you are a brilliant lawyer, you will still lose more than 50% of your cases. But 22 years of my experience at the bar, not a single client whose case I lost, told me that they were disappointed, but they said it was destiny. And they felt a sense of relief. So even if you can't get them victory, they have a sense of justice. And then they say that I feel satisfied that I tried to the best that I could, and probably now it is my destiny. So that journey of a case with a client, stepping into his shoes, his ups and downs, and his joys sometimes. I mean, some cases that you win are so exhilarating. There are some causes, as lawyers, we can't deny any case. We have to take up every case that comes to us. Even if a rapist or a murderer wants us to represent him, we have to do the case. But sometimes you get cases like that, women's permanent commission matter. Those are cases that you identify with the cause. You feel somewhere a part of you belongs to that. And I think litigation gives you extreme amount of satisfaction. It helps you to realize who you are. It is a journey in self-discovery. The clients pay you to learn every day, literally at their cost and at their expense.
Yes, ma'am. Wonderfully put. Now, quickly moving on to the next question, ma'am. Is it okay if we just extend this session for another 10 minutes? Because we have got a couple of more questions.
Okay, 10 minutes is fine, Anandji.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Vasant Kumar wants to know your thoughts on the National Court of establishment of the National Court of Appeals.
I have very strong views that we should not have another tier added to an already overburdened judiciary. High courts are meant to be the last courts on facts. That is why the admission dismissal rates of in Supreme Court is 75-80%, because the Supreme Court does not interfere unless there is a substantial question of law of general public importance that they see at the time of admission. That's why admission rates are so high. Already struggling and straddling with delays, which is eating our system like termites. We need to find ways to strengthen the system. And yes, I think we need a permanent constitution bench in our Supreme Court, because there are many references to larger benches which are pending. And when a reference of a constitutional point is pending before Supreme Court, it's not just one case. It has impact on hundreds and thousands of cases across various high courts, district courts, etc. on that point. So a permanent constitution bench is absolutely necessary to be set up, in my opinion. But I don't think a court of appeal is necessary. High courts are doing that job. We can't be adding too much to this. We already have a dearth of judges. Look at how our 1/3 of the vacancies always remain in higher judiciary, in high courts. Supreme Court, of course, lately the vacancies are not there. The appointments are happening faster, but the system is not able to find suitable judges to take up that post. So where will we find, suitable judges to man the Court of Appeal? It's not going to happen. So instead of adding another tier, we have to strengthen the existing resources, strengthen the existing courtrooms, maybe expand them. First of all, we must have zero vacancies. We can't have what the already our judge to population ratio is amongst the worst in the world, lower than even developing countries. Our population, population surge is so much that none of our resources can keep pace. So whether it is, queues in buses, to queues in trains, to hospitals, to schools, resources are falling short everywhere. Same is the case with judicial resources. I don't think the Court of Appeal is a good idea for that reason.
Thank you for the clarification, ma'am. One question asked by Mr. Krishnan. He wants to know, most of the legislations ordinance passed by the governments are challenged in the courts, and the Honorable Supreme Court and High Courts have to pass an order or give an verdict. Are we not wasting the precious time of the courts? What is your opinion, ma'am?
That's their job. That's the job that is envisaged for them in the Constitution. That if the legislature or the executive is making any law and doing any executive action that runs counter to the constitutional provisions, particularly Part 3 of the Constitution of Fundamental Rights, then it has to be tested and it has to pass the muster of constitutionality. So that is the basic job that they have to do. That is the balance of the institutional balance that is envisaged in our Constitution, so that there is no, there is no sole repository of power. If that role is taken away from the courts, then the legislature and the executive will be free to pass laws and ordinances and other executive actions at their will. Who's going to keep a check?
That is precisely why our founding fathers actually had this checks and balance in mind, to not tilt any power to one particular pillar of democracy. Yes, thank you, ma'am. We are really running out of time. Very last question coming up for the day. So, what is your advice to young lawyers, and what is your secret of success, which you would like to share with our participants here? The women in general, and as well as for the young women lawyers in particular.
I think I've already answered this.
So we would like to hear your secret of success, ma'am.
So the magic potion, here I'm going to tell you the magic potion, the secret. It's really throw all of yourself in the profession. It is not a profession that we can do just with our mind and our hands. It is a profession that requires all of us. We need to put in our eyes, our nose, our ears, our face, our mouth, our tongue, our hair, nails. You have to jump into it. You have your heart, your soul. You have to live the profession. This is a profession that takes a lot, but it gives you a lot also. It's a way of life. It's really a journey in self-discovery. Lawyers are like social engineers. They're like social doctors, social teachers, social architects, building the society. As lawyers have had the front role, whether it was our freedom struggle or other movements that have happened at various various times in the history of our nation. Lawyers have played a very pivotal role, and that pivotal role comes with immense responsibility. So that responsibility we have to understand. Really there's nothing extraordinary that will set you apart. All it takes is honesty, dedication, and compassion. If we can work with these three things, then things find their own place. I came from a small town. Jodhpur is a small town in Rajasthan. It is considered to be the heart of Marwar region. It is considered to be the gateway of Thar Desert in Rajasthan. and I finished my legal education from there. But I had this again, how I told you I was a dreamer, trigger happy dreamer. So even after doing law, I felt I shouldn't practice in the high court or district court or anywhere. I only want to practice in the highest court of the land. Here I am. I can't even afford a place in Delhi. So I live in Gurgaon for 15, 16 years. I have to. In my legal chamber, I mean, I did have a place to work from, but the chamber had more than half of the space was taken by my children. Like I told you, I was a mother of young twins when I was a young lawyer. I couldn't join any chamber because I just couldn't afford as a young mother to join a chamber, go to the office in the evening. Sorry, it was impossible. I mean, I was able to attend to miscellaneous day court on Monday, Friday. That itself was too much for me. In fact, I started thinking whether I can do it at all. I took a break uh, for a long time, and then I started slowly coming on Mondays and Fridays alone. And I felt whether I can't do it. I'm doing injustice to my children. And my mother told me, she said, if Rani Lakshmi Bai could tie her child on her back and go to the war, then why can't you do your profession along with your children? So you need to have strong family who gives you these reminders every now and then when you're feeling low. And it's possible to find your way. So my children actually grew up in my office. Uh, if you're not a Delhiite, you don't have the support system of a mother or mother-in-law in the city that you live. You have to, and in those times there were no crashes in the courts, and it's okay. You find your way. And I now feel that I was lucky that I had my children early in the profession. They're all grown up, and now, in fact, I run behind them. They would only want to run away from me, but they are young students of law now. It's an interesting journey. You find a way about anything. Just keep at it with your passion, perseverance, and compassion, and enjoy yourself. That's the most important thing.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing your secret of success and taking your time, precious time, and coming on board. I know when I approached you, you immediately accepted without any hesitation. And in fact, when we wanted to have this 20th and special webinar, we had only one name in our mind, and we only wanted you to come on board and share your views with us and our participants, ma'am. So we sincerely thank you from the bottom of our heart for coming on board and giving a wonderful and refreshing and inspiring session here. I am sure most of the people here, when they are coming into practice or when they come to practicing in Supreme Court, they will definitely recollect all these points which you have told here. And this is a red letter day in the history of our law chambers as well. We had the privilege of hosting you here on our show. Thank you, ma'am. And we also wish and pray that you decorate the benches of the Indian judiciary soon. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Anandji. It was very interesting, candid conversation that we had. The topic also that you gave me was topic that is more out of experience. It was not really a topic of legal research. Apart from statistics, I really did not look up anything else. But yes, thank you very much. It was a very frank conversation with a lot of candor, with a lot of frankness. So thank you very much. I enjoyed myself thoroughly. To you and all the participants for such engaging questions. Thank you. And good luck to all of you. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. And we have other exciting webinars coming up on the next week. Keep a tab on the Facebook and YouTube channel. And those who have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, kindly subscribe to AP Legal Chambers to be the first person to receive the latest videos as and when it is uploaded. And please keep a tab on the Facebook page so that you will be getting to know about the latest webinars and other updates from our end. On behalf of my team, AP Legal Chambers, and on my personal behalf, it is Anand signing off. Thank you and have a great week ahead.